Hi everyone, we're about to start. We'll let participants join in and we'll start in a few seconds. I see people still are entering our session. As you join everybody, I encourage you to introduce yourself on the chat. If you can say maybe where you're from or what's your occupation, a few words, a sentence to get to know who's with us. And we'll start in just a few moments. I'll be looking at the chat as we go along. My name is Yoav Gez, and I'm happy to have you here with us, with myself and Dr. Sarah Chia, on the pre-program information webinar for the Design Thinking and Innovation for Business, an amazing course, which I believe is something that no matter what you do, what's your occupation, it will give you tools for life and very positive tools for anything you do. I'm looking at the chat as we go along. Guys, don't be shy, present yourself, where are you from? We have here people usually joining us globally from all around the world, so it's good to see who we have on this session with us. Feel free to introduce yourself, say hello, and we're about to start. Okay, so in terms of the technical aspects on this call, this is a webinar. If you want to ask a question, I encourage you to do that through the Q&A panel. You click on the Q&A panel, you ask a question. We're monitoring all the open questions. Some of it I will answer myself as we go on live. Some of it I will ask either Dr. Sarah Chia or the program support who are here with us to respond. But feel free for any question to ask on the Q&A panel. I'm not seeing too much of you presenting yourself on the chat, but I will be happy to see where you're from and say hello. The chat, if it's bothering you, let's say the distraction, you can just close the window, put it aside, and do ask your questions via the Q&A. If anybody has a technical issue, write it down on the chat and we'll ask program support to help you. Hi, Shobit from India. Where in India, by the way, Shobit? I was living there for 6 months. Good to know where. I even remember a little bit of Marathi. I don't know how much I can still speak, but that was from the Mumbai region. And continue, we see, yeah, Mumbai. So I can say Kai Kasakai, right? If you remember your Marathi. Dinesh, hi as well. I'm based in Israel, by the way. And I'm going to present myself in a second. What we have prepared for you today is really to give you a taste and a feel of what you're going to get in this wonderful program on design thinking. After we introduce ourselves and I introduce the speaker, Dr. Sarah Chia, who we're proud to have us with us, we're going to tell you a few words about the National University of Singapore, the Business School, about Emeritus and this wonderful global program, which is really taking the world of education to the 21st century. And then Dr. Sarah Chia will present the program overview, what you're going to learn in terms of design thinking, what it is, which tools you're going to take with you for life. And then I'll continue and wrap up with the learning journey, how it's going to look like for you from week to week, learning with us together with Emeritus and the NUS Business School. And we'll end with the technicalities in terms of the program details, registration, and we'll leave about 20 minutes for Q&A. And this is what we're here for. If you have any questions on the content, on the learning journey, about anything at all, we're here to support for this. Any question, again, for those of you who joined late, please ask us on the Q&A panel. We're tracking that. And I continue to see people from where? From Indonesia, amazing. Thailand, hello. Kuala Lumpur. You see why I encourage you guys to write this one? If you wouldn't say this, I would have never imagined. And continue for those of you who haven't haven't yet written where you're from, either from which country or your business or what you're looking for in terms of the education and the program, or what are your business challenges. We love to hear from you guys. So I'll start with introducing myself briefly. My name is Yoav Gez. In the past, I was a senior executive in a high-tech company which serves telecom companies around the world. The company is Amdocs. This took me, by the way, from Singapore to Thailand to India to the United States, almost every country in the world, because we were serving telecoms all around the world. My specialty in the last years of the company was trying to drive innovation within this large corporation. This is one of the major tools that I always tell people: if you want to drive innovation in a large company, not only in a startup, design thinking is the way to go. So when I started, I didn't even know it was called design thinking. I just did what seemed, the right thing, to be very close to the customers, to be empathetic, to understand their needs. And this eventually became a very big success in the company, creating over $100 million of revenue every year. And in the last 3 years, I actually took this as my journey in life. I founded a company called Beta Entrepreneurship. And what we do is we help large organizations disrupt themselves, create new growth engines, create new value to their customers. And we do this across different industries. We work from education to the Ministry of Health here in Israel, to startups, to large companies. And we really help companies, what we call, update themselves for the new world. And as I said, design thinking is probably the most practical tool for increasing, I say, your probability of success. So I've been living and, teaching design thinking as well for many years. And I think whoever hasn't yet had such a course, this will be helpful in your journey, not only in business, but in life in general. It's an amazing tool. I always see it as a philosophy as well. I don't know, Sarah Chia, you can tell me later if you agree with me as well, but it's also a way of life, not just a technical or a business school, right? And with us, we have Dr. Sarah Chia, Associate Professor in the Department of Management and Organization in the National University of Singapore Business School. Aside from participating in speaking engagements and collaborating with industry experts and leading innovation in some very cool topics, I was reading a bit about some of her work. She has done amazing things in very high-tech and progressive technology domains. She's also contributed to the academic world with journals and the Journal of Technology Transfer, Creativity and Innovation, and the Technological Forecasting and Social Change, and even written books on entrepreneurship, innovation, design thinking. So you have here so much knowledge and expertise that you're going to get through Dr. Sarah Chia and her personal experience, which is going to be amazing for you guys. In terms of the National University of Singapore, maybe Audrey, if you would like to say a few words about the business school, we're happy to have you with us here as well, Audrey.
Thank you. Okay, so my name's Audrey and I'm from the NUS Business School Executive Education Department. So I'm just going to share a little bit about the business school. So our vision is to be the leading business school in Asia, to be globally recognized for excellence in education and research, with a mission to advance knowledge and develop leaders, with the purpose of serving business and society. So we're really honored to be ranked first in Asia and also 11th globally in 2020 on QS World Rankings. And one of the strengths that we have here would be our diverse faculty. You'll see that we're 139 strong. We've got faculty coming from North and South America, Europe, Asia Pacific, Australia, all contributing to a wealth of knowledge and experience. And back to you, y'all.
Thank you so much, Audrey. So amazing to see on the same slide, by the way, Audrey, your vision, and at the bottom, the reality. So the close proximity between where you want to be and where you are today. This is beautiful for a company. A few words about Emeritus. I came to know Emeritus a few years ago. I was teaching in the local universities and academy here in Israel. And it was absolutely outstanding to see what a beautiful business model and concept Emeritus brought to bring together the best universities in the world, like we have here at NUS with us, and to give access to the knowledge of professors like Dr. Sarah Cheah, and from all around the world to people no matter where they are. I mentioned say hello. We heard from Kuala Lumpur and from India and from Thailand, and everybody has access via this platform to the knowledge of that specific university. Is training with real life, as you will see, examples, tools, and really getting to understand the tools, even though it's a digital platform. We combine it in Emeritus also with, like you see, live platforms, live webinars, live office hours, which you'll see as well. So it's not fully digital. And actually, you have a very systematic program, which up till now has already served over 50,000 students from all across the world, working, like we said, with the best universities. And one of them is here with us today, NUS. I can tell you again from the different platforms of Academy I saw and the different Open edX and edX and other things people do, Emeritus have established to create a very superior systematic methodology to teaching, and it works. And this is why I'm also here and very proud to be as part of this platform. What we're going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Dr. Sarah Chia to share with you a bit about design thinking, the program, what it's about. And then we'll get back to really your learning journey. So if you will have any questions also on the content itself, the world of design thinking, then please do so on the Q&A as we go along. So I'm handing it over to you, Dr. Sarah Chia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, F. Thank you for the kind words. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you, everyone, for coming online. So now I'm going to share about what this program is about. Now, I have been teaching this program on design thinking for the past 10 years. And it just gets more and more exciting, when we see how the participants have implemented that at their workplace and also making a difference and an impact. So what is design thinking? Now, it is actually a approach that is human-centered. That means it puts the user right at the center of the innovation. And it draws upon the designer's tools in order to integrate the needs of the people using technologies and the advances in technology and shaping it to meet the business requirements with a view to achieve business success. So this is the thinking of Tim Brown, the executive chair at the IDEO, which is a product design company. That's one of the champions of design thinking in practice. But the methodology itself actually started in Canada Business School, one of the universities in Canada. So since then, it actually has been adopted since the 1980s through 90s by MNCs like Apple or Mayo Clinic, which I'll be sharing in the examples during this program on how companies across different industries are applying them. So next slide on what is design thinking. Yes. So design thinking, as some suggested, is from the designer's perspective. We know that designers are trained to be very sensitive to deal with the complexity of customer needs, to be very observant, very empathetic, in making sure that their design will suit the needs of their users. Now, technical professionals, those who are technical professionals among our audience here who have trained to be either scientists or engineers or mathematics, like myself, I'm an engineer by training. I look at the technological aspects. I do programming, coding, and system development. So when I do application development or systems engineering, I also need to take note of the kind of needs that of my customers, of my users, to make sure that when my systems are being rolled out, they can satisfy the needs of the users, so that the programs, are something that will really be used by the users and not just as a white elephant. So as for business people, who look at business development and who look at marketing and sales, then they can be looking at the commercial aspects of the user's needs. In fact, whenever they think of pitching a deal or making a sale, it is very much, this design thinking is an approach that actually uses the very needs-based approach to try to understand what are the problems that the customers are facing, and to then propose the solutions that will meet the needs of the customer, rather than a traditional approach that is very product-centric. So next slide shows why is design thinking important? Is it something that is for designers? Well, the short answer to this is no, it is not. It might have started from the School of Design, but the process itself has found its applicability across all functions, across all industries. And in fact, it is a process that has used methods and techniques that can help any profession, any functions, and any kind of organization where the professionals themselves can acquire a very deep understanding of the needs of their customers. These customers could be your direct customers, who could also be your indirect customers. Direct customers could be people, who are working in another department in your organization, that will need your services. For instance, if you are in the HR function or a finance function or administration kind of function, your customers are most likely to be internal customers. And this process, design thinking, helps you to also understand what are the needs of your internal customers so that you can provide services that are central to their needs. And the second aspect about design thinking as a process, it enforces team heterogeneity. As the term suggests, that it means that it involves multiple people because it values diversity in ideas. It also values diversity in needs, so that as a team coming together, it actually can harness the differences across people and make the solution, the design, even more robust. And and the third aspect of design thinking process is that it encourages dialogue-based kind of conversation with the potential customers. That means in the traditional process, we tend to just develop a product and we want to make sure that it is perfect before we roll it out and then present it to the customer. But design thinking is telling us that we don't have to wait until the whole product is perfect and completed. In fact, we should try to get into a conversation with the customer as soon as possible, and with the potential customer using prototypes and getting their feedback, so that the product or the services that we are prototyping are closer and closer to the needs of the users. So because through this dialogue, through this constant interaction with the customers or potential customers, it can help us to gain trust and making sure that this product that we design really will suit their needs. Next slide. Yes. Next slide on the design thinking. A very important aspect is also involving the customers in the process, and we call it co-creation process, because the designers, the engineers, and the business people, each of these don't have the solutions alone. None of these is has the monopoly over the solution. In fact, you do need to create this together with users who are going to be living with this product, living with this innovation, so their input is very important. So this process is beautiful in the aspect that it takes into account the participation, it encourages participation, and it takes the fear, of being involved away out of the users, and it can actually be a very enjoyable, a very fruitful process. Next, the design thinking process, yes, can be defined in terms of 6 steps. Right. So during this program, we will be going through each of the 6 steps. In fact, it's been structured in such a way that we would take at least 1 module to cover each step. Now, we go into the next slide, the details about each module. Yes, so in module 1, we'll do an introduction of design thinking, where I will cover how to identify the customer journey. It is important to understand, how customer makes decision from the time they hear about your product or they hear about your services to the time where they try to, formulate the decision to make a purchase or engage your services. So the journey, understanding their journey, understanding what is the problem that the customer is trying to solve, or the issues that the customer is facing, and also what are the possible solution options. So these are important aspects of design thinking, which I will cover as an overview, as an introduction in module 1. Then I would also highlight this concept called identifying target users, and coming up with design questionnaires, interview design questionnaires that will help to understand the customer pain point. Now, interview questionnaires are important because when we talk to the customers, we know that they are very busy people, and we want to make sure that this interview questionnaire is not going to be very lengthy, but something that will be enough for us to capture the information for us to develop possible solutions. So that's what we will do in module 1. And then in module 2, we would cover this concept called empathy map. Now, empathy map, the purpose is to identify the customer profile, because when we look at customers, it's important for us to know what kind of profile, is this customer? Is it a young person, who likes trendy stuff, or is it elderly person, whose mobility may be quite restricted, or is it a busy professional who prizes convenience over prices? So the customer profile, the needs of this customer is very important, and we have a tool that's called empathy map, and we can develop this using ethnographic research method, which is a kind of method that involves the studying of tribes by using interviews and observations. So in module 3, building on what we have covered in the earlier modules, the participants will get a chance to learn how to develop a persona of the customer. So we would go through the mapping of a customer journey to try to understand the customer's experiences with our products and services, and we'll develop our customer's persona. The persona here refers to the needs, the wants, the desires, the goals, and the aspirations. And then in module 4, having developed the empathy map and the persona in the earlier modules, you'll be in a good position then to define a point of view. Because whatever services or products that we are designing, we need to have a point of view of what exactly is this product or service trying to solve, right? Or trying to address. So we take the opportunity in module 4 to analyze the customer's professional profile, and together the customer's needs. The needs will be from the functional aspects, social, emotional, and basic needs. And then we would then cluster the insights and develop a point of view to envision possible solutions. Let's say, for instance, a mother of a child who is who has autism, a mother whose child, yes, has some special needs, may be very concerned about her child's development learning needs in school, and she wants to make sure that the child, has the right responses, right tools to use, and also the right kind of materials to hold on to, or some kind of a jacket to put on that will help to relieve, the triggers. So with this kind of conditions, this kind of needs, we know that mother can be very anxious. The mother has emotional needs and also has functional needs to make sure that her child is well looked after. And so in order to design a kind of a product that will help, or service that will help this mother to alleviate her fear about her child not being able to do well in school or to cope well in school, we have to understand what are the different aspects of her needs. So using in module 4, we will cover how to develop a point of view for the customers. Now, next slide on module 5, having defined the point of view of the user, then we will be in a better position in module 5 to then do ideation. That means to generate ideas and to synthesize the learning that we have gathered so far. And then we brainstorm the ideas to explore possible solutions. Now, it's important to have multiple solutions because very rarely will we have one solution that is perfect, that will be able to meet all the needs. So, but by brainstorming the ideas to explore, generate multiple solutions, we may actually be able then to pick the important aspects, the attractive aspects of the different parts of the different aspects from each solution, and come up with a high quality solution. So that is what is meant by synthesizing, a solution that can be prototyped. Then prototyping is a very important aspect, which we will cover in module 6. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that prototype doesn't have to be very expensive. In fact, the whole idea of developing a prototype of a solution, it could be a service solution, can be very low cost, as low cost as developing a PowerPoint or some kind of a mock-up, maybe even a piece of paper, that you can put together just to put into the hands of the potential users to get feedback. Because the idea here is to prototype an experiment and to get feedback that will help you to improve very quickly at low cost. Then that was what we will do in module 6. And then in module 7, we would validate and refine. Yeah. and that means we refine our prototype. So it's very common in product development that we may go through multiple versions and we keep iterating and developing the 9th, the 10th version, even the version 11 of our prototypes, so that we can keep refining and bring the product or the solution as close to the customer's needs as possible to achieve a better fit with the users. And that will also require us to keep refining our point of view, because when users start using your prototype and interacting with it, the users will then have new ideas on how her needs can be met, or his or her needs can be met. And then in module 8, we would look at practical applications, across multiple industries and also across multiple companies, to see how this can actually be applied in your workplace or in your school or in your personal life, in your professional life. And then I would also be introducing other tools that are very complementary with design thinking, such as the value proposition tools and the business model canvas. Yeah. So at this point, do I take question or I just keep going?
There's one question maybe we'd like to address, Dr. Sarah Chia. I saw this from In on the chat,
Okay.
asking what is the difference between design thinking program with an information system program, which also talks about design, analysis, and development of what customer needs.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that question. Yes, I understand what you're saying, because being a program developer myself, I have gone through the software system lifecycle development, and there is a design process. Now, in the system development design phase, the design process is about designing, capturing the user's input, and then designing a program that will meet the needs of the customer. So the idea there is also the same. That means to capture the user requirements. However, in the system lifecycle development, there is or rather in a traditional system lifecycle development, it tends to be a waterfall kind of process that is very linear. That after you have captured the user requirements, you want to get sign off before you do coding, and then when you do your coding, you want to make sure that your programs are well tested, before you actually get the customer sign off in the user acceptance testing. So that process tend not to be so iterative as what is covered here in design thinking, because the design thinking program here advocates not to develop, not to wait until your program is finished, is completed, is perfect before you show it to the customer. In fact, design thinking is telling you that as soon as you got user interface up, or as soon as you get a few buttons up, on what the user screen is going to look like, show it to your user and get some quick feedback. Yeah, so it's a very iterative. It's a methodology which basically tries to ensure that your development work is as close, as good a fit as possible to the user requirements. I hope I answered that question.
And maybe one more question in terms of time, asking about how does Agile methodology approach link to design thinking, because it seemed maybe very similar or close.
Yes, I'm glad you asked about Agile thinking. This Agile methodology and Sprint methodology actually has a very similar kind of thinking behind it, where when you do sprints or Agile, you want to make sure also that these prototypes of your UI, your user interface, and also different parts of the program are being tested. So that approach is very much to make sure that the programs are developed very quickly, concurrently, and also to reduce as much error as possible, and also to achieve a good fit. Now, that methodology originated from the Infosystems, the School of Infosystems, right? The discipline of information science. Whereas design thinking is a discipline, is originated from the School of Design, right? So the origin of these two are different. Are there similarities? Yes, the similarities here is that both are trying to reduce failure by engaging the user as soon as possible and as early in the process as possible. Yep. But what is unique about design thinking is that now I've been through both. I mean, I practice both as well, Agile, Sprint, as well as design thinking. My takeaway about design thinking is that it is extremely useful when it comes to designing products and designing services, designing systems that has a very strong innovation perspective. And it's done in a way, the process and the methodology is very intuitive so that you can bring your users into this process of co-creation very easily without making the user feel very, making it too onerous for the users.
Excellent, and maybe
Any
we
other
have
question?
time for one more question. Omri had a couple. I'll try to bundle them together, Sarah.
Sure.
First, he's asking, design thinking, he says, wasn't invented yesterday. It's been out there for many years. Why all of a sudden, this big hype, and it's become so popular? And he's also asking, what are the kind of more sociological or personal aspects within a company and the organization to be able to adopt design thinking?
Right. Well, thanks. These are great questions. Yes, design thinking wasn't invented yesterday. That is absolutely correct. In fact, companies, some early pioneers, have used design thinking, like Philips. Philips Design is well known for that. In fact, they in terms of capability maturity model, they rank at the highest level. So we have companies like IDEO and Apple. So, and we also have seen, how design thinking has helped them transform their products and their services such that, not only are their products, have an excellent design, but they are also able to meet the users, the consumer needs. Yeah. Now, why is there a sudden interest is that I think increasingly companies that haven't adopted this are beginning to see that this is a mindset that is not only limited to product companies, but this is a mindset that they can encourage all members of the organization to adopt, meaning that you don't need to be a designer to know design thinking. In fact, there are a lot of companies that I work with, it's become like a HR, human resource goal to make sure that that all employees must have this broad-based skill, a horizontal skill called design thinking, so that all members of the organization will speak the same language. So meaning that it has become like a core competency for every individual in an organization because of its intuitiveness, because of the success that companies have seen, other companies that have the pioneers who have adopted it and achieved results. Yeah, so it has taken on a much higher level of prevalence.
Excellent. So
Yep.
I think many of the questions I'm going to address very soon after the remaining slide, but thank you so much, Dr. Sarah Chia, for presenting the design thinking and joining us here and sharing. You'll still be with us, I assume, if there are any additional questions on the Q&A side. I'm going to continue because, guys, some of your questions I'm going to address in the next few slides, and then we'll review together whatever remaining questions or new ones you have as part of the Q&A. But thank you so much for that. I see, by the way, based on your question, there's a lot of interest in the subject, and you're really trying to see how does it apply to your specific industry or your specific role. In general, I can say design thinking applies to everything. I mean, we've done it from teachers that we told them you don't have a customer, but you have students. You can apply the design thinking between teachers and students. I saw here a question about coming from, where was it? From construction. Where was it? Somebody asked here. He's saying, yeah, from Shobit, right? Shobit Agarwal. You're saying, I'm basically from construction. How will it be useful for me? So I believe if you look at the technology penetration in different industries, construction is one of the lower ones where actually see huge change in technology in the last few years, and it's growing. Design thinking could be an amazing tool to understand basically on today's activity, how can you improve and the work site and processes in project management, anything, but also for the future. I, for example, applied design thinking as a process where I had a mission to create a new digital solution for the gas and water industry. I was doing it for a company which is a manufacturer of plastic. I presented on some of my office hours. And I know nothing about gas and water industries. I come from telecom and from high tech. And basically design thinking was the tool that we use to understand what are the pain points, the needs, which we want to address. And from that, we grew, just like the steps that Dr. Sarah Chia presented, we grew through the steps to understand what is a problem we're really trying to solve for our customers in the gas and water industries, around construction, by the way. And we came to the point of quality. From there, we started to come up with creative ideas. Today, this is a software that is already commercial. And it's a beautiful story because it's a plastic manufacturing company which does fittings from polyethylene for gas and water. And now they're starting to develop this new digital division, which was born from a design thinking process. So it can be applied all around the board. I don't think it's limited. I think only, I would say, Dr. Sarah Chia, the place where you don't need design thinking, maybe if you're developing missiles and you don't need, the human aspect of a missile or a bomb. But for everything else, I would say for every other industry, I think this is a very relevant tool, no matter if you're a senior executive or you're a product designer or you're an engineer or programmer. I think it's a skill which everybody will find useful. And I'll cover this again a bit in the Q&A. Do you have anything more to add, Dr. Sarah Chia, or can we continue?
Yes, we can continue.
Okay. So some of your questions, what about the learning journey and how it works? So I'll share with you in terms of what you're going to experience with us between NUS Business School and the Emeritus. The first week is going to be orientation to understand the platform, how it's going to work. You're going to introduce yourself. Like you see here, we have a global group on these programs, which is an amazing opportunity to network, to get to know your peers, to see challenges from each other as well. The platform will help you understand what are your assignments, your weekly goals every week. It will be very structured in terms of what are the assignments or lectures you have to see. The lectures are broken down to very specific topics every week. Every week a new package is being released. So it's actually structured in a way where it helps you manage your time and your priorities. And we add to your weekly goals beyond seeing the lectures. You can also test yourself with Q&A. You can also, and we encourage you to use the discussion boards to share your knowledge or contemplations. You can ask me or the faculty questions on the content as you go along. So you have a live team behind the recorded sessions. You're going to get webinars, also recorded webinars from industry experts from different domains who apply design thinking. And in addition, we're going to conduct live office hours every occasional week. So any topics you want to raise, to ask, we'll have in forums like these, which we can open up the mic, we can discuss, and we can assist. And one of the most important aspects of your learning journey is you're going to apply what you learn in real life. So part of the learning journey is we have what we call a playbook. You have an assignment to actually apply design thinking around a need in your work area, your personal life, anything you choose. And basically, you're going, as the week progresses, to do an actual live design thinking process with real people, with real customers or users, again, in your environment, and to do everything that you saw in terms of the process, from the interviews to the prototyping, to getting the feedback, to those agile processes for learning and improving as you go along, the empathy map, building the persona, all of this you're going to do as part of your assignment. And this assignment will go through the 8-week journey. So you start from 0 and reach a point where you can actually come back to your company or to whoever you want and share, this is a result of the design thinking for the challenge around these personas which we choose. And this gives you actual real life experience in the process. So the academic and the case studies are being complemented by, again, additional case studies and office hours, and is being complemented by your own personal work of actually executing a real life design process. And it's amazing to see some of the work that is done here, which actually creates a real value to your customers, to your business, and to yourself. And so this is an amazing part of the learning journey. In terms of follow-up, you have the program support team for any technical question, extensions and assignments, anything that you need. You have even today with us, you can see many of the program support are here joining us. So even though this is a digital platform, it's going to feel very alive and very connected, one to each other, to the professor, to Dr. Sarah Chia, to myself, and to the program support. And this is one of the key success factors, I believe, for Emeritus as a platform. You don't feel like you're watching recording alone at home. You're part of a team. You have who to talk to. You have who to ask questions. And you're getting all the feedback and everything you need to actually really understand and apply design thinking in your world. I had a question here as well on the certificate. Who was asking this one? Somebody asked if there's a certificate. And the question is definitely yes. You get a certified certificate, digital certificate by the NUS Business School, which you can also add obviously to your LinkedIn, to your CV, to wherever. And this is, I would say, beyond the certification itself, you're getting a tool for life, which I'm going to say a few more words about soon in a second as we reach the Q&A. We have here all the details on the program. The program starts very soon on December 9th, and we encourage you to register if you haven't done so yet. There's flexible payment options. If you have any questions, again, on the payment option, the installments, on this, you can ask on the Q&A or approach our program support after the session. And before we go on the Q&A, I do want to add a few things on why it's so important, I believe why it's so important to go through this course and program and to learn design thinking. Number one, we have this global transition that the world is moving from industries to ecosystems. Once the world was very isolated, we have industries, each industry within its own. All these borders are breaking, so no matter what industry you're working in, part of the change that is going to happen within your company, within your industry, is opening up. And design thinking basically is a tool that will enable you to go into new domains that you never touched before. I gave an example. I was working in telecom, so I could have said my CV was telecom and IT, for 20 years. Today, I'm working with 3-5 different industries every week. And one of the key strengths I have to come with confidence to an industry that I know nothing about sometimes, I gave the example of water and gas. I did nothing in that business for 40 years of my life. And now we're developing solutions which are going to be successful thanks to this process. So this is an amazing tool in terms of where the world is going. It opens up to an effective way to get to know new industries, new types of companies, new technologies. The second thing, companies are moving from product business models, and you mentioned that before, Dr. Sarah Chia, from product to solutions and to platforms. That shift requires better understanding not your own product, but the customer and what his needs are, and trying to give a broader range of solution rather than just the product that you have today. And again, design thinking is an amazing tool for that. I also say on a personal level, whether you're a CEO or a developer, one of the key things you'll read about on the news, on the internet, that the set of skills that are required for employees today is expanding. It's not the same. And one of the key things that you get from design thinking is ability to come up with creative solutions, creativity, to work on multidiscipline type projects, to create effective solutions for real problems. So, I'm based here in Israel, and we say we're a startup nation. We have about, I think, 7,000 startups here in Israel. On the other hand, there is a sad fact that we say also over 95% or 92% of startups fail. And one of the key reasons I say is that many of the startups that, when they're born, they come up with an idea. We have these very smart, amazing technical people that have ideas for a product or for technology, and they get money for it, they get investment and they start building their startup. But what they lack in that process sometimes is a startup is a business, and a business needs customers and paying customers, and a business needs satisfied, happy customers with solutions which are relevant, right? Which have a good product market fit. So design thinking is basically a tool for success. It improves your probability of success. I think this is what maybe puts you on the side of the 5% of startups that win rather than the 95 that don't. Because very logically, without a secret, it's just very logical. If I'm going to sell something to a customer, Why develop something in my laboratory for a year and try to sell it, rather than start with my customer, start with understanding his needs, learn his point of view, and build a product from there. So the probability of success is going to be much, much higher. I saw here also questions about what about internal processes? Can it help, within my company about internal processes? It's exactly the same thing. The only difference is rather than speaking with external customers, you have internal customers, and you will apply the same type of thinking of that empathetic view, point of view, developing the persona for internal processes of well. I saw here a question from Nico, kind of ironic, isn't it? Apple being an early adopter of design thinking, considering it's a founder and often quoted as having said, people don't know what they want until you show them, seems to contradictory to the principles of design thinking. I think what's, first of all, in terms of how you see the picture, Nico, I would say this is correct. Apple's DNA at the beginning was very much the end customer, right? And everything was applied, the end customer and design and the use and the accessibility and all of this one. If you look, by the way, at the whole telephone or mobile industry, it's very hard to differentiate between one device to the other. They all kind of look the same and act the same. And I think whatever company will start really looking back at the users today and coming up with alternative even to mobile phones could be the next big thing. I'm trying to see here if we have additional questions. Do you have specific domains like education, banking, or logistics? My answer would be, and if you want to add to this, Dr. Sarah Chia, is that design thinking in the program is not focusing on a specific industry, and it's not for products or for services. It's basically a process for understanding your customers' needs or your users' needs, even if it's not a business. Like I said, it could be a teacher or a hospital. It doesn't have to be a customer who's a paying customer. So it applies to every industry, and it applies to every type of service, product, solution, platform that you're developing. And you would, as part of the process, do the tweaking, the fine-tuning in terms of how to adjust the process to what you're doing. So obviously, for example, minimal viable product or an MVP for a physical product is very different than one of a service. But the process itself, the methodology is the same. And the case studies and examples that you will see in this program are coming from the different industries and very wide. So you can see different examples from completely different types of businesses. And I think, Ashish, for your question on do you have different design thinking offerings for different profile for CEO to engineer, maybe the faculty or someone for program support can say about alternative programs, but I believe this is the best program to really understand the process in depth, and there won't be a variance in terms of how to teach design thinking. Like I said, if you're a CEO engineer, the way you would use it would be different, but the tools, the methodology, and all of the knowledge are in this course itself, or whatever kind of role that you need. Is that fair enough, Dr. Sarah Chia?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I couldn't really hear that clearly.
The question was, if there is a different profile of, let's say, a CEO or engineer, would there be different types of courses or programs for that different profile? And my answer was, the methodology would be the same, the way you apply it would be different.
Yeah, yes, you're right. Yeah, the process is the same. Yeah, it can be used, at the different functions, different levels. Yeah.
Correct. And this is one of the more, I would say, extensive programs I saw. You have an 8-week program where you really become an expert on this one. I saw a much more simplistic programs explaining it. So I think no matter which type of role you are in, no matter which type of industry, once you complete the process and you complete the 8 weeks in this program, you would be able to apply the process and the way of thinking to whatever you do. And for this, I don't think you would need a specific course, because the tools, the way of thinking, the process is the same. If I didn't answer any of the questions, by the way, then just copy and paste them, guys, into the Q&A, because I'm trying to look through the chat. I see many of the questions are in the chat. Let's see if we have anything else here. Can design thinking be applied by Oppo to types of business? So we answered this, definitely yes, Oppo. Is this program recommended for startup company? I would tell you where I see, again, the connection to the startup company, that startup companies are developing a solution. It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be, many of the startups fail in what we call the valley of death, at the point where there's not enough money to continue to pay for development and for your employees, which is coming in from selling, from sales. And companies, as much as they invest startups in the initial stages, if they don't start making money and making profit, they will not succeed for the long term. So if you're a startup, this is definitely very, very critical, because like I said, it can make the difference between one of the 95% of startups that fail or the 5% that succeed. Because if you went through this course and you're developing a startup, you would be able to increase your chances of creating a product that your customers would pay for, because you went through the process of defining your persona, defining their needs, defining the alternatives, coming up with different solutions, improving the solutions, and coming up with, again, something which fits what your customers want today, not in only 10 years. So this process, I think, is very critical if you're in a startup as well. Let's see if we have any more questions here as I follow up. Let's see. From Jack Wang, I see you have a question here, sir. I wish to have better understanding on software as a service versus design thinking. Will the course be able to let me lead the basic of SaaS knowledge? I would say they're not directly correlating or dependent on each other, because design thinking would help you, if you're developing a software as a service, to develop a platform which be, again, one that will succeed, will provide value to your customers, serves their needs. We're not discussing software as a service from the technology point of view, but if you want to develop SaaS solution, I would highly recommend, again, coming into that process with tools of design thinking. I think that would increase your chances of success immensely. I'm going through if there are any questions. Again, guys, if I jumped or missed anyone, just copy paste so it will jump at the end. I'm looking through the chat. Any additional questions you can also put on the Q&A like we encouraged. Thank you, Montana, for that. We talked about internally, externally. We talked about, let's see, I think we covered everything. Guys, did we miss any questions that you have here that you want to paste on the chat, or you want to add any additional questions? I'm trying to go through everything here. First of all, I love that you're active and asking, which is great. I'm very excited about design thinking as a process. I actually sometimes surprised when I come to a company and they don't use it or they never heard of it. And because like you guys said before, this is not something new, but it became even more so relevant. Think even about COVID-19, right? Just what we're going through in the last few months in the world. Companies had to very quickly adjust to adopt their business model, to come with new technologies, to move from physical stores to e-commerce and to digital solutions. And if you want to have an effective process, which will come up with a good solution also in short time, even then design thinking could be an amazing tool. So for me, it's in my DNA, in my blood, and like you heard from Dr. Sarah Chia, from hers as well. And definitely, I would say no matter what you do, and like I told you, even for teachers in school, we teach design thinking because they have to be creative. They have to give value to their students and to their customers. The school itself has to remain relevant in the world which is changing. And these tools are what makes it happen. So highly recommend it to all. Let's see if we have anything else. I don't see any more questions coming in. Many times implementation from Ashish of design thinking does not show change in bottom line of business. So Ashish, I would say, first of all, maybe statistically, I don't know if it's always, I would say statistically, if I would look at some of the largest companies today in the world and more successful, most of what they did, which made them successful, was to have a good product which fits the customer needs. If you even think of the companies everybody is speaking about, right, of the Uber and Airbnb and the Netflix, all of them, if you think how they were born to help customers get better value to resolve their needs for what they need today than the existing solutions. So I don't know if statistically that would be most of them. I would say most of the companies that apply design thinking would usually be successful. On the other hand, you can't say 100%, but it is an agile process. So even if you start and you're not in the right direction, the process will help you fix and reach eventually the right solution, the right product over time. So it is a system and a process which is alive. I hope that answered this one as well, Ashish. Anything else? Okay, Agnes, I saw here about the price. I would ask the program support maybe to help see what can be done about the price, you know, or the course in terms of installments and making it easier. So I would recommend that you can reach out to them. Like I said, there's an installment program as well. You're getting on this course, like we said, some of the best minds in the world for this topic, and you're going to come out with very hands-on experience as well. So again, from other courses and programs I saw around the world, this is a very prestigious and high quality and very effective program for anyone who wants to really turn design thinking as a tool for life and for themselves. If I want to thank, first of all, Dr. Sarah Chia for taking the time and joining us today in person. I thank you so much for that. And for the Audrey from the faculty and for the program support here with us. Guys, we really wanted to give you a taste of what the program is going to look like in terms of content, in terms of the learning journey, in terms of the value. If you still have any questions, feel free to send your questions through the program support to Emeritus and to whoever you have contact with so we can help. And I would really be happy to see you guys starting December on the program kickoff and later on the office hours and seeing how you're going to take design thinking to your business and, you know, to your world and to apply it effectively. So I would like to thank everyone very much for joining today and hope this session was very fruitful for everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.